The orc girl was starving, hunted, and only one sunrise away from death. Kairo found her collapsed outside his Stormbell tower with frost on her lips, ash on her parrot-green skin, and two small ivory tusks trembling as she tried to breathe. She looked too weak to stand, but the soldiers chasing her had nailed an empire warning to the tower gate. Feed her, and the dragon wakes. Kairo should have shut the door. Everyone on the floating islands knew what dragon-bound orcs meant: burned villages, broken sky bridges, and war returning from the clouds. But the girl did not ask for mercy. She only pushed a cracked bowl toward him and whispered, "Please," before dawn, so Kairo fed her. One bowl of hot sky-grain soup, one piece of dried sunfruit, one foolish act of kindness. Then the tower bell rang by itself. The clouds outside split open, and when dawn finally touched the sky, a massive pearl-scaled dragon landed at Kairo's door, not to attack him, but to guard him from the army coming up the bridge. The bridge shook under the army's boots. Kairo dragged the wooden bar across the tower door with both hands, though he knew it would not stop trained soldiers for long. Outside, the dragon lowered its huge pearl-scaled head until one burning blue eye filled the cracked window. It did not roar. It did not strike. It simply watched the bridge, its wings folded around the tower like a living wall. Behind Kairo, the orc girl coughed violently. He turned and saw her hunched near the furnace, one hand pressed to her ribs, the other gripping the empty bowl as if it were the only proof she had survived. The soup had brought color back into her face, but not peace. Her parrot-green skin still carried streaks of ash. Her small ivory tusks were chipped at the tips, and her torn mooncloth cloak clung to her thin shoulders. "You should not have fed me," she whispered. Kairo almost laughed, but fear had dried his throat. "You were dying." That was safer. A heavy knock slammed against the outer gate. By order of the Sky Empire, a man shouted outside, "Open this tower and surrender the Ash-Tusk girl." Kairo's stomach tightened. Ash-Tusk. He had heard that name only in war songs and execution notices. Her royal orc bloodline, wiped out years ago for binding dragons to their blood. Every child on the floating islands was taught to fear that name before they learned to read. But the girl in his tower did not look like a monster. She looked hungry, cold, and terrified of her own shadow. Kairo lived on Veyr, a broken floating rock chained between larger sky islands. His tower was not a castle, not a fortress, not even a proper home. It was a narrow stone shell filled with cracked storm maps, rusted bells, grain sacks, and a furnace that coughed more smoke than heat. He had spent 5 years here alone, ringing warnings before solar storms burned the bridges. Most people remembered him only when danger came. Now danger stood at his door. The orc girl tried to rise, but her knees failed. Kairo caught her before she hit the floor. She flinched at his touch, quick and sharp, like someone used to chains instead of hands. "I won't hurt you," he said. Her golden eyes searched his face. Humans always say that before they decide the price. Kairo looked toward the window. The dragon's claws dug into the stone steps outside. Its breath rolled over the tower like warm thunder, shaking dust from the beams. "I don't know what price they put on you," Kairo said, "but I know what hunger looks like." The soldiers struck the gate again. Wood cracked. The orc girl's eyes filled with panic as sunlight crept across the floor toward her feet, and the dragon outside finally began to growl. The growl shook every chain beneath. Kairo felt it in his teeth, in the stone floor, in the old storm bell hanging above them. The dragon outside was not just warning the soldiers, it was warning the entire sky. Its pearl-scaled body pressed around the tower steps, blue fire pulsing faintly beneath its ribs, while the Empire men on the bridge suddenly stopped breaking the gate. For the first time they sounded afraid. "Hold formation," Marshal Odrin Vell shouted. "Do not look into its eyes." Kairo did not move. He stood between the door and the orc girl, though he knew how foolish that was. He was a bellkeeper with burned hands and an empty grain pot. She had a dragon guarding his door. If anyone needed protection, it was him. Still, when sunlight crawled closer to her bare feet, she recoiled like it was a blade. Kairo noticed the silver cracks opening across her parrot-green skin. Thin, burning lines spread from her ankles toward her knees. She bit down hard, her small ivory tusks cutting into her lower lip, refusing to cry out. "Light hurts you?" he asked. "Not all light," she forced out. "Only dawn." Kairo grabbed his old storm cloak from a nail and threw it over the window. The room darkened at once. The golden line vanished from the floor, and the orc girl collapsed back against the furnace, shaking. Outside, the dragon's growl softened. Kairo stared at the covered window. It knows. She closed her eyes. Hurt feels what I feel. That answer made the tower feel smaller. Another crack split the gate. Kairo rushed to the back wall and kicked aside a stack of grain sacks. Behind them was a narrow trapdoor leading to the lower bell chamber, a cramped space where spare ropes, storm weights, and broken brass gears were kept. "Can you crawl?" The orc girl opened one eye. "Can you stop asking kind questions like they don't cost anything?" "No?" For half a second, despite the blood, fear, and soldiers outside, something almost like surprise crossed her face. Then she crawled. Kairo helped her down the ladder as gently as he could. She was taller and stronger than she first seemed, but hunger had hollowed her body. Her torn mooncloth cloak kept catching on splinters. Her breath came in rough bursts. Twice she nearly fell, and twice Kairo caught her by the arm. Each time she flinched before she remembered not to. The lower bell chamber smelled of oil, dust, and old lightning. It had no windows, only a round iron vent that carried in the sound of boots, wind, and dragon breath. Kairo laid his spare blanket near the wall and handed her a water skin. She did not drink immediately. "What?" he asked. "Poison?" Kairo took the water skin back, drank first, then passed it again. This time she drank. It was a small thing. A mouthful of water. A lowered weapon. But in that dark chamber, with the army outside and the dragon curled around the door, it felt like a treaty. "What is your name?" Kairo asked. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "Zhaura. Just Zhaura?" Her face tightened. Names become ropes when hunters know the rest. Above them, wood exploded. The outer gate had broken. Soldiers stormed into the entry passage, but their charge stopped almost instantly. A blast of heat rolled through the stones. Men screamed. Not dying screams. Warning screams. The dragon had moved its head in front of the tower door, blocking them with teeth longer than spearheads. Kairo climbed halfway up the ladder and looked through a crack in the floorboards. Marshal Odrin stood beyond the broken gate in a white Sky Army coat, his steel mask reflecting dawn. Behind him, gliders hovered like black insects over the bridge. "You are sheltering Imperial property," Odrin called. "Hand her over, and the tower keeper will be pardoned." Zhaura's voice rose from below, bitter and tired. "There, you hear it now." Kairo climbed back down. "Hear what?" "The price." Her hands were trembling around the water skin. Not from cold this time. "From shame. They starved me for 9 days," she said. "They wanted the dragon oath weak enough to cut out. I escaped before they opened my chest." Kairo felt the words hit him slowly, one after another. The dragon outside had not come because she was dangerous. It had come because she had been tortured. A sudden hiss split the chamber. One of the old pressure pipes burst overhead, spraying boiling steam toward the blanket. Kairo lunged, but Zhaura moved faster. Weak as she was, she shoved him aside and slammed her bare palm over the broken valve. Steam burned her skin. She clenched her jaw, tusks bared, but did not let go until Kairo twisted the wheel shut. He stared at her blistered hand. "You saved me." Zhaura pulled her hand back and looked away. "You fed me." The storm bell above them gave one deep, unstruck note. Then the iron vent darkened. A small black glider had dropped below the tower, and through the vent, Kairo saw a soldier's hook sliding in, searching the lower chamber. Kairo grabbed the soldier's hook before it could scrape across the floor. The metal was cold, barbed and stamped with the Sky Empire crest. He pulled hard. Someone outside cursed. The hook slipped deeper through the vent, catching on one of the old bell ropes instead of his arm. Zhaura moved beside him, her burned hand shaking. "Do not touch the rope." "Why?" Before she could answer, the rope snapped tight. The storm bell above them screamed. Not rang. Screamed. The sound blasted through the tower with such force that dust burst from every crack in the stones. Kairo dropped to one knee, clutching his ears. Zhaura staggered back against the wall, eyes wide with terror, as if the bell had spoken a language only she understood. Outside, the dragon roared in pain. The soldier's hook was not searching for them. It was trying to trigger the bell. Kairo understood too late. His tower's storm bell had been built from old sky metal, the kind that carried sound across islands. But if the Empire knew how to twist its note, they could use it like a weapon against the dragon. Above them, Marshal Odrin shouted, "Again! Make the beast kneel!" Another hook scraped into the vent. Zhaura snatched her bone dagger from beneath her torn cloak and slashed the rope before Kairo could stop her. The bell's scream cut off. Silence fell so sharply it made the chamber feel dead. Then came the dragon's breathing outside. Rough, wounded, still alive. Kairo looked at Zhaura. They knew the bell could hurt it. They made many things to hurt dragons, she said. Bells, chains, songs, hunger. Her voice had gone flat, but her eyes were shining. Not with tears. With memory. The tower shook again as soldiers tried to force past the dragon. Kairo pulled Zhaura deeper into the lower chamber, behind a broken brass gear as tall as his chest. There, in the dim furnace glow leaking through the floorboards above, she finally stopped pretending she could stand. She slid down the wall. Kairo tore a strip from his own sleeve and wrapped her burned palm. Her skin felt too hot, almost fevered, and beneath the parrot-green surface faint blue veins pulsed like tiny rivers of fire. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Zhaura gave a tired smile, but it broke before it became real. "That is the question they always ask before they decide I should not exist." "That's not what I meant. I know." She looked toward the ceiling, listening to the dragon's heavy claws shift over the tower steps. "But it is what I hear." Kairo said nothing after that. He only tied the cloth carefully, loose enough not to hurt, firm enough to hold. That silence did more than any apology could have. After a moment, Zhaura whispered, "My clan did not command dragons." That was the lie humans liked, because it made slaughter sound necessary. We guarded their eggs. We buried their dead. We learned the names they gave the stars. The Ash-Tusk line was not a royal line of rulers. It was a line of keepers. Kairo glanced at the vent where dawnlight flickered with the shadow of gliders. "And Irvak?" Her breath caught at the dragon's name. "You heard the soldiers call it that," Kairo said. "No." Zhaura's voice dropped. "I heard him call himself that when I was 6. The air in the chamber seemed to tighten," she told him in broken pieces. Her village had floated near the eastern meteor fields, where dragon bones shone under the clouds at night. Irvak the Dawn-Eater had been the last celestial dragon under Ash-Tusk protection. When the Sky Empire came, her mother hid Zhaura inside a hollow bell while the clan fought outside. Irvak burned half the fleet, but the Empire used dawn mirrors to trap his soul in sunlight. Zhaura survived because Irvak pushed the last piece of himself into her blood. "That is why dawn burns me," she said. "It is not killing me. It is calling him back." Kairo felt the truth settle into him with cold weight. He had not woken a monster by feeding her. He had given strength to a dead guardian that had been waiting inside her suffering. A new sound rose outside. Not boots. Chanting. Kairo climbed to the ladder and looked through the cracked floorboards. Empire soldiers stood in a half-circle beyond the broken gate, holding mirrored shields toward the dragon. Each shield caught the sunrise and threw it into one blinding beam. Irvak recoiled, claws tearing stone from the tower steps. Marshal Odrin lifted a black chain from a steel case. It moved like it was alive. Zhaura saw Kairo's face and forced herself upright. "Sun chain. What does it do?" "It pulls dragon souls out of blood." The words struck harder than any blade. Above them, the tower door groaned. The dragon was losing ground. Its pearl scales smoked under the mirrored light, and the blue fire in its ribs dimmed with every breath. Zhaura reached for the ladder. Kairo blocked her. "You can barely stand. If they chain Irvak, they chain me too. If you go out there, they'll take you." Her golden eyes lifted to his. "Then do not let them take me alive." Kairo froze. She pressed the bone dagger into his hand, fingers closing his around the handle. Her touch was warm, trembling, terribly human. Before he could answer, another sound came from beneath the floor. A child's voice. "Kairo?" Namik whispered from the lower service tunnel. "I brought help." "But the Empire followed me." Kairo turned toward the service tunnel. Namik's face appeared through the narrow opening beneath the bell chamber floor, pale with fear, streaked with soot, his apprentice cap torn nearly in half. Behind him, 3 sky farmers crouched in the dark passage with rope hooks, grain knives, and shaking hands. They were not warriors. They were people who owed Kairo their lives from storms he had warned them about. Then Kairo saw the red glow behind them. Empire lanterns. Namik had brought help. But he had also brought the hunters straight into the tower's bones. "Close it," Kairo whispered. Namik shoved the tunnel grate upward, scrambling into the chamber. "They saw me cross the underchain. I'm sorry. I thought if people knew you were in danger." A spear shot through the tunnel and struck the wall beside his head. Zhaura moved before anyone else. She grabbed Namik by the collar and yanked him away as a second spear punched through the opening. Her burned hand left blood on his shirt, but she did not release him until he was safely behind the brass gear. Namik stared at her tusks, her parrot-green skin, her torn mooncloth cloak, and the royal burn mark glowing through the fabric at her shoulder. "You saved me," he whispered. Zhaura's mouth tightened. "You are small. Small things should not be used as bait." The tower shook violently. Above them, Irvak roared again, but this time the roar cracked in the middle. The mirrored shields outside were forcing the sunrise into him, burning his pearl scales, until flakes of silver-white armor fell past the windows like dead leaves. The blue fire in his ribs flickered lower. Marshal Odrin's voice thundered through the broken gate. "Ash-Tusk heir! Come out or I drag your dragon apart piece by piece." Zhaura closed her eyes. For one heartbeat she looked less like a hunted girl, and more like someone listening to a funeral song only she could hear. Kairo gripped the bone dagger she had given him. "There has to be another way." "There was another way," Zhaura said softly. "It died with my clan." The old wind chimes above the furnace began to tremble. No wind touched them. No hand moved them. Still their thin metal tongues rang in uneven notes, sharp and ancient, until a voice formed inside the sound. "Not dead," whispered Mother Sulara. Zhaura went still. The farmers backed away, muttering prayers. Namik clutched Kairo's sleeve. Even the soldiers in the tunnel paused, as if the tower itself had spoken. The chimes rang again. Blood remembers. Mercy wakes. The keeper was never the dragon's master. Zhaura's eyes snapped open. "Mother?" The chamber darkened. Every covered window above turned black, not with shadow but with moving stars. Constellations spread across the stone ceiling, forming shapes Kairo did not understand. Tusks, wings, a broken crown, a bowl held in two hands. Zhaura staggered toward the lightless wall, her breathing fast. No, she died at the meteor fields." Mother Sulara's voice came through the chimes, brittle but fierce. "Only my body. My last sight was hidden in the oath. Child, they lied to you. Irvak did not put himself inside you to make you a weapon." The black sand in Zhaura's pouch burst open. It swirled around the chamber like a tiny night sky, circling her shoulders, her tusks, her burned hand. Symbols flashed across her skin, old orc marks buried beneath empire scars. Kairo saw the truth before. Hafra seemed ready to accept it. She was not simply dragon-bound. She was the last living door. Mother Sulara's voice deepened. The Ash-Tusk line guarded dragon souls between death and rebirth. When Irvak fell, his spirit entered you, because you were chosen to carry him to his next dawn. Not to fight, not to kill, to be born again. Zhaura shook her head. "Then why does dawn burn me?" "Because you have been starving the oath. His soul cannot be reborn through fear." The words struck the room harder than the dragon's roar. Kairo looked at the empty bowl on the floor. One meal, one act of kindness. That was what had started this. Not magic, not blood, not power, mercy. Outside, Marshal Odrin shouted an order. The sun chain scraped across stone, dragged closer to the tower door. Irvak snarled, but the sound was weak now. Mother Sulara's voice turned urgent. "If the Empire chains him before the oath opens, Irvak becomes their engine forever. If Zhaura opens the oath alone, her body will burn out before rebirth completes." Kairo's throat tightened. "Then what does she need?" The chimes fell silent. Then all the star marks in the chamber shifted toward him. Zhaura stared at Kairo, horrified. Mother Sulara answered, "A witness who fed her without ownership. A human hand freely offered. Life willing to stand beside hers when the dawn enters." Namik whispered, "Kairo." Zhaura stepped back from him at once. "No, I will not use him." The tunnel grate exploded inward. Empire soldiers poured into the lower chamber, masks gleaming, blades drawn, lanterns burning red. At their center came Marshal Odrin himself, holding the living black sun chain in both hands. His masked face turned toward Kairo, then toward Zhaura. "So," Odrin said, "the little famine bride finally learned what she is." Zhaura's fear vanished beneath rage. Odrin lifted the chain, and every link opened like a metal mouth. "Good," he said. "Now the Empire can harvest both of you." The sun chain struck Zhaura before Kairo could move. It wrapped around her burned wrist, then her arm, then her throat, each black link snapping shut like a jaw. Zhaura screamed, and the sound tore through the bell chamber with such pain that Irvak answered from outside. Slamming his claws into the tower steps, stone cracked, dust rained from the ceiling. Marshal Odran smiled behind his steel mask. "There it is. The dragon feels every wound." Kairo lunged with the bone dagger, but two soldiers grabbed him from behind and drove him to his knees. Namik shouted his name. The sky farmers raised their grain knives, but Odran's men pushed blades to their throats before they could take one step. Zhaura fought the chain with both hands. Blue fire flickered beneath her parrot-green skin, moving through her veins like trapped lightning. Her ivory tusks clenched so hard one of the chipped tips cracked again. "Do not touch him," she gasped, looking at Kairo instead of Odran. "Whatever happens, do not touch him." Odran heard that and turned slowly. "Oh," he said, "so the witness matters." He pulled the chain tighter. Zhaura collapsed to one knee. Outside, Irvak roared again, but this time his wings slammed against the tower walls in panic. The mirrored shields had trapped him in a cage of dawnlight. The dragon could guard the door, but he could not enter. He could not save her. Odran stepped toward Kairo. A human hand freely offered. That was the old condition, wasn't it? How poetic, how weak. Kairo's burned hands curled against the floor. He understood now. The Empire did not only want Zhaura. They wanted the moment of rebirth. They wanted Irvak's soul pulled out while it was still opening, helpless and bright, ready to be forced into an engine. Zhaura shook her head at him, tears cutting clean lines through the ash on her face. "Kairo, no." He looked at the empty bowl near the furnace. A cracked thing, worth almost nothing. Yet because of it, a dead dragon had returned, an empire had panicked, and a starving girl had remembered she was not born to be owned. Kairo stopped struggling. Odran tilted his head. "Good, you are learning." "No," Kairo said. "I am choosing." He slammed his shoulder backward into the soldier holding him. The man stumbled. Kairo twisted free, grabbed the broken bell rope hanging beside the brass gear, and wrapped it around his bleeding palm. Namik's eyes widened. "Kairo, that bell hurts him. Only when the Empire plays it wrong." Kairo pulled. The storm bell above gave a deep, broken note, not a scream this time, a call. It rolled through Belle Isle Veyr, out across the bridge, down into the cloud sea, and into every small island chained nearby. It was not the official warning tone of storms. It was the old pattern Kairo had used years ago, when the Empire sent false alarms to empty villages before raids. 3 slow strikes, 1 silence, 2 strikes, a warning that meant, "Do not run, witness." Odran realized it too late. "Stop him." A soldier slashed Kairo's arm, but he pulled again. The bell thundered. Then again. The whole tower answered. Old gears turned. Dead ropes tightened. Hidden chimes burst into wild music. Outside, voices rose, sky farmers, rope makers, bridge children, exiles, poor islanders who had survived because Kairo once warned them when no one else would. They came in rope skiffs and patched gliders, lanterns swinging in the sunrise surrounding the broken bridge, not as an army, but as eyes the Empire could not blind quickly enough. Odran's control cracked. He yanked the sun chain hard. "Then I will take the dragon now!" Zhaura screamed as the chain began pulling blue-white light from her chest. Kairo dropped the rope and ran to her. She tried to crawl away. "No, it will burn you!" He caught her chained hand with both of his. The pain hit instantly. Dawn exploded through his arms. He saw Irvak falling through sunlight. He saw Zhaura as a child hidden inside a hollow bell, biting her fist so soldiers would not hear her cry. He saw Mother Solara covering the bell with her own body. He saw the Ash-Tusk clan not commanding dragons, but singing to dying ones so their souls would not be lost. Then he saw himself from Zhaura's eyes, not a hero, not a savior, a tired, human man opening a door when everyone else would have locked it. Kairo held tighter. "I fed you because you were hungry," he said through the pain, "not because of what you carried, not because of what you could become." Zhaura's golden eyes broke wide open. The sun chain stopped moving. Then it began to crack. Odran staggered back. Impossible. Zhaura rose slowly, Kairo's hands still around hers. The black links snapped one by one, falling from her skin as dead ash. Blue fire did not burst out of her to destroy the room. It softened, it spread. It wrapped around her and Kairo like dawn, becoming gentle for the first time. Outside, Irvak lowered his head. The dragon's pearl scales split with radiant light, not from wounds, but from release. His huge body dissolved into thousands of glowing feathers of fire, and every feather streamed through the broken tower door, through the floor. Into the chamber, Odran screamed and raised the last piece of chain. Zhaura lifted her free hand. No more cages. The dragon light passed through Odran's chain and turned it to harmless white sand. The mirrored shields outside shattered. Soldiers dropped their weapons as the gathered islanders saw the truth with their own eyes. The Empire had not protected them from monsters. It had been harvesting guardians. Odran backed toward the tunnel, but Namik blocked him with shaking hands and Kairo's old apprentice bell. For the small things, Namik whispered. He struck the bell once. The sound knocked Odran to his knees. Zhaura did not kill him. She stepped close, tusks gleaming, eyes full of fire and grief. "You wanted a dragon engine," she said. "Now carry a memory instead." She touched his mask. It cracked open and every stolen dragon cry the Empire had trapped inside its machines poured into his mind at once. Odran collapsed alive, sobbing, broken by the voices he had silenced. The tower fell quiet. Kairo swayed. His hands burned silver from wrist to fingertip. Zhaura caught him before he dropped. Above them, in the doorway where the old dragon had stood, a smaller shape unfolded from the light. Not Irvak as he had been, but a newborn celestial dragon with pearl scales, blue eyes, and wings still wet with dawn. It looked past Zhaura, straight at Kairo, then it bowed. The boo of the newborn dragon silenced everyone. No soldier dared move. No skyfarmer spoke. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath around Veyr, as if the whole floating island understood that something older than crowns, armies, and fear had just returned to the world. Kairo could barely stand. His hands had changed. The burns were no longer red or black. Silver lines ran from his fingertips to his wrists, glowing faintly under his skin like moonlight trapped in old scars. Every pulse hurt. Every breath felt too hot in his chest. But when the small celestial dragon bowed to him, Kairo forgot the pain for one impossible moment. Zhaura held him by the shoulders, strong enough now to keep him upright. Her parrot-green skin no longer cracked beneath the dawn. The sunlight touched her face gently, warming the ash on her cheeks instead of burning it. Her ivory tusks, chipped and uneven, gleamed like something sacred. The newborn dragon stepped forward. It was no larger than a horse, but its presence filled the chamber. Pearl scales shimmered across its body. Blue fire glowed behind its ribs, softer than Irvak's had been, like a lantern protected from wind. Its wings dragged slightly on the stone floor, still wet with dawnlight. Namik lowered his little apprentice bell, trembling. "Is that him?" Zhaura's eyes stayed locked on the dragon. "Yes," she whispered. "And no." The dragon blinked slowly. Kairo understood without knowing how. Irvak had not returned as the same ancient guardian who once burned fleets from the sky. He had come back smaller, new, unfinished. Not a weapon, not an engine, not a beast chained to anyone's blood, a life beginning again. Outside the tower, Marshal Odran's soldiers began dropping their weapons one by one. The villagers had surrounded them on rope skiffs and patched gliders, holding lanterns high in the morning air. They had seen the sun chain break. They had seen dragon light turn Empire metal into white sand. They had seen their great commander fall to his knees, weeping under the weight of every stolen cry. The Sky Empire could still lie in distant courts, but it could not erase this many witnesses. Odran crawled toward the broken tunnel, mask split open, face pale and wet with terror. No one stopped him at first. Then the newborn dragon turned its head. Odran froze. He was not burned. He was not bitten. The dragon only looked at him, and the marshal began shaking as if 1,000 wings were beating inside his skull. Zhaura stepped between them. "No," she said quietly. The dragon looked up at her. "If we become what he feared," Zhaura said, her voice rough with exhaustion, "then he still wins." Kairo looked at her then, really looked. The starving girl who had begged for food before dawn was gone. but not replaced by a queen on a throne or a warrior, hungry for revenge. Zhaura stood barefoot in a ruined bell chamber, cloak torn, hand burned, tusks broken, choosing mercy with the strength of someone who knew exactly what cruelty cost. The dragon lowered its head. Odrin was taken by the islanders, not the Empire. The sky farmers bound his hands with ordinary rope, not sunchain, and marched him into the open where everyone could see his face. Namik followed close behind, still holding the apprentice bell like a weapon. Though his knees were knocking, by noon, the Empire gliders had retreated, not because they were defeated forever, because they were afraid of what the small islands had become in a single morning. Witnesses, Belle Isle. Veyr was no longer quiet after that. People came from every chained island nearby. Some came with food, some came with bandages, some came only to stare at Zhaura from a safe distance and whisper the old stories they had been taught. Orc, dragon-bound, Ash-Tusk, monster. But then they saw her kneeling beside Kairo, wrapping his silver-burned hands in clean cloth. They saw the newborn dragon curled at the tower door, not attacking children, not eating livestock, not setting bridges on fire. It slept with its head resting beside the cracked bowl Kairo had used to feed Zhaura. That bowl became the first thing people stopped, fearing. An old rope maker brought soup the next morning and left it by the door. A bridge girl brought a blanket. A sky farmer who had once called, Kairo cursed, brought a basket of sunfruit, then stood awkwardly in front of Zhaura and muttered, "For the dragon or you, whoever needs it." Zhaura stared at the basket for a long time, then she accepted it. That was how the tower changed, not all at once, not with songs and clean forgiveness. The old hatred did not vanish in one sunrise. Some villagers still crossed themselves when Zhaura passed. Some refused to step near the dragon. Some looked at Kairo's silver hands and wondered whether he was still fully human. But Belle Isle, Veyr had been chained for so long that even suspicion felt lighter than silence. Kairo could no longer ring the storm bell alone. His hands shook too badly, and the silver burns ached when thunder gathered. So Namik took over the ropes, standing taller each day beneath the great bell. Zhaura repaired the tower with him. She was terrible at tying sky knots, but strong enough to lift beams 2 men could not move. She argued with Kairo over broken shutters, burned every pot of soup she tried to make, and spoke to the newborn dragon in an ancient orc tongue that made the bells hum softly in answer. The dragon grew quickly. Within weeks, its wings stretched across the tower yard. Within months, it could glide around Belle Isle Veyr in slow circles, scattering blue sparks into the clouds. Children began calling it Dawnwing. Zhaura hated the name at first. Kairo liked it. The dragon answered to both, which ended the argument. One evening, as golden light spread across the freed island, Mother Sulara's wind chimes rang again. Zhaura stood alone beneath them. Kairo watched from the doorway, his bandaged hands resting against the frame. The chimes whispered only a few words. "Keep her no more. Choose your sky." Zhaura closed her eyes. For years she had believed her life belonged to a dead clan, a hunted bloodline, a dragon trapped in her bones. Now the oath was open. Irvak had been reborn. The Ash-Tusk line could become something other than a grave. The next morning, Zhaura did not leave. Instead, she painted a mark on the tower door, 2 tusks curved around a bowl, with dragon wings rising behind it. "This is not a royal banner," she told Kairo before he could ask. "What is it?" "A promise." "To whom?" Zhaura looked at the bridge where orcs, humans, exiles, and frightened travelers now waited for shelter beneath the storm bell. "To anyone who reaches this door hungry." Kairo smiled, but there was sadness in it too. "The Empire will return." "Yes," Zhaura said, "and next time they will not find 1 starving girl and 1 tired bellkeeper." Behind them, Dawnwing climbed onto the tower roof and spread its pearl wings into the morning sun. The light passed through them in blue and gold, spilling across the island like a new flag. Kairo stood beside Zhaura at the doorway. He was still poor, still scarred, still afraid of the war that would surely come. But for the first time in years, when he looked at the sky, it did not feel empty. The storm bell rang once in the warm wind, not a warning, a welcome, and far below, beneath the drifting clouds, the first broken chain of Belle Isle Veyr fell silently into the poisoned world, while above it, a dragon guarded a door that would never close to the hungry again.